Holiday edition here of the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast. First of all, happy Thanksgiving to everybody. If you're joining us via the podcast, remember we stream live Tuesday nights at 9:30 p.m. with you as always, Jeff Chadiha from the NFL Network, NFL.com. Sam McDowell from the Kansas City Star, columnist. My name is Soren Petro from Sports Radio 810 WHB in Kansas City, talking about this game with the Carolina Panthers. Chiefs win 30-27. Should we be encouraged or disappointed by this game? The offense played better. What's the ceiling for this unit right now? Will DJ Humphries be the answer at left tackle? Can the defensive problems be fixed for this team? What will Charles Omenihu mean for the pass rush? What happened to the Chiefs secondary in this one? Should the Raiders be a challenge for the Chiefs? We'll also make our predictions on that game. It's all coming up right now here on the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast.
You are listening to the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast, the most in-depth analysis of the Kansas City Chiefs on planet Earth, breaking down the Chiefs like no one else can. Red, Gold, and Bold is hosted by Jeff Chadiha, Sam McDowell, and Soren Petro. Jeff Chadiha is a senior columnist and on-air personality for the NFL Network and NFL.com. Sam McDowell is the sports columnist for the Kansas City Star. Soren Petro is the afternoon drive host of the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB in Kansas City. The Red, Gold, and Bold podcast is proudly brought to you by David Starnes Allstate Insurance, covering all the important things in your world: home, business, life, and even the fun stuff as well. Motorcycle, boat, ATV, you name it. Get with Dave and he'll have you covered. You can give Dave and his crew a call, visit them online, or stop into any of their locations, including North Kansas City, Liberty, and Branson, Missouri. Elevate your coverage, elevate your confidence, and drive worry-free. Don't put those insurance needs off any longer. Get with Dave. He'll give you peace of mind today for the things in your life most important to you. Now, here are the hosts of the Best Chiefs podcast, Jeff Chadiha, Sam McDowell, and Soren Petro.
And thank you very much, Curtis. Off and running here on the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast. Don't even say it, Sam. The moment you looked down and started typing, I really wanted to slap myself in the face. Glad we all got together to shoot that new Red, Gold, and Bold open as I yet again have forgotten to play it. So, my bad. We'll get it down. We'll get it. A lot going on. It's the holidays, people. We're all busy, right? We've all got a lot happening, right? Can we, give me a break? My apologies, Jeremy. If Jeremy's watching, he's gonna be like, "What did I do all that work for? I do all that work for?" So, yeah.
I think I counted 6 seconds before you started shaking your head and realized that you forgot to play it.
Was that right? Well, then I saw the second time you looked down. Whenever you started typing, whatever I saw, as soon as I'm like, yeah. So there we go. Just the usual. All right, enough of that. Let's get going. What do we think here? 30-27, the Chiefs win in Carolina. It's ugly. They did certainly not unleash the fury on the Carolina Panthers, as I need to just shut up. I probably will be calling for fury against the Raiders. Just a quick one here, but encouraged or discouraged by the Chiefs' performance, Jeff?
I was discouraged. There was some upside in the offense, but the same issues keep happening. And at some point, we have to accept that this is not 2020, and there's not going to be some great transformation coming. And even last year, they won a championship and they had their issues, but there wasn't a great transformation then. They just found a way to push through some of those problems. And so for me, I think what's discouraging is these problems are a lot more severe. And, I was talking to Curtis earlier today about this, and I said, in the NFL, you got to have 4 things to be successful: quarterback play, pass protection, pass rush, and coverage. And they got 1 right now. and I don't know how the other 3 get fixed quickly. And I think what they're relying on are long shots right now to fix those things. So I'm discouraged.
Where are you at, Sam? Encouraged or discouraged?
Well, this is a really good football team that has the record of a really great football team that's being judged by the best of the best football teams. Like, we all have this high bar for the Chiefs, and there's a lot to like from what we saw on Sunday, particularly offensively, because we hadn't seen that. I think what Jeff's pointing out is the problems that we're going to be talking about today are more consistent. And therefore, I think there's more reason to believe, or at least have concern, that that's the aspect that's going to be sticking around, because it had been 363 days since we saw this offense score 30 points in regulation. And back in 2018, they never went more than 21 days with the offense going, without scoring 30 points in regulation. And Strin, I mentioned this on your show, but I felt like you could have cut out this game and pasted it into the 2018 season. And the reason the offense was good, though, was one thing, and it was Patrick Mahomes. And the reason 2018, that offense was so consistent, was a lot of things. And unfortunately for the Chiefs, it wasn't just the offense that felt 2018. It was the defense as well that felt like it was cut straight out of that 2018 season, where they couldn't get a stop against an offense, let's be clear, that has really struggled this year. They gave Bryce Young a lot of confidence early. He played, I thought, really well late, but I thought a lot of that was at the responsibility of the Chiefs and what they allowed him to do early. And so, to Jeff's point, the thing that I think is most consistent that we were talking about on this podcast last week was the defensive problems. And the offense is what looks more like an outlier. Can they continue it on beyond 1 week? And so I think there's reason for both of the aspects of your question, but I could see why you'd be more concerned after this game than as opposed to have more optimism after this game.
I will not throw in the towel on thinking that optimism could just be around the corner, but I think you got to be discouraged coming out of this game. Again, I don't think it means the season's over. I don't think it means this team can't get to where they want to go. I don't think it means that this team can't arrive at a level that they want to be at. And let me be clear. I think one of the things that's important is, one, we are judging this team based upon winning a third consecutive championship. It's championship or bust. There's maybe only the San Francisco 49ers, by being in 2 Super Bowls in the last 5 years without winning one. Maybe they're the only other team that this year is only about winning a championship. Like, just getting to the Super Bowl is not an accomplishment. Everybody else getting to that game would be an accomplishment. Even the Bucks or the Rams. If you wanted to say the Rams are in that group too because they won one in this kind of window, okay. But even the Bucks, it'd be
even the Lions, the best team in football. That'd be a great accomplishment. Yeah.
But Tampa's has won one, but not with this quarterback. So if Baker Mayfield got there, that would be, and with this coach. So that would still be there. So I want to point out just how unique their situation is. The next thing is for this team. So that's a really difficult thing to be in. But I think you're discouraged right now because this was a team that should have beat up. They didn't. And I think we heard that. And Sam, we mentioned this today. I talked about it a lot yesterday. One of the most striking things that was said after the game was Andy Reid coming into the locker room and telling guys to don't hang your head, right? Like, we got to get some things fixed. We'll get it rolling. But it's about winning. Don't ever forget that. It's about winning, and wins are hard to come by. I do believe that wins are hard to come by in the NFL, but we're not judging this team off winning the regular season. We're judging it off winning a championship. And I think the other thing is, when you judge them about winning a championship, you're not just trying to get back to the level they were last year, because last year was an improbable championship, right? You want to be confident that you're going to win a championship. Take nothing away from what they did last year, but at no point was the consensus that they were going to win. Did they believe in that locker room? Yeah, they did. All right.
Underdogs in their last 3 games.
Yes. Right. But did everybody believe? No. And I think the point of Andy Reid making those comments this time was that I don't know. I think he looked in the locker room and saw a group of guys that didn't believe that they were championship out.
They were discouraged.
Yes.
Yes.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think that is so. And I say that for a couple of reasons. One, anyone who's like, well, there goes Jeff. As we know, sometimes the comment section will get. You're wrong. You're completely wrong, because they were discouraged. Andy Reid knew it. That's why he went in there and said what he said. I just think that this team has a ways to go, and I do think they can get there. Let me change the question, Jeff. Do you think it's possible? Not that they will. I don't want you to predict. It's possible that they can get to the level they need to be at to win a championship.
Yes, certainly. I mean, look, this is. I
want to note that there is a difference in what we're saying here.
Yeah. Look, I think what I'm saying is they're a championship team, right? They're a team that's won 3 championships. They've won the last 2. Anytime that kind of team gets into the playoffs, they're the scariest team there, because they've done it. Everybody else hasn't done it. So that, even with where they're at right now, the way they're playing, that still is a nice advantage to have. But, I was talking doing a radio interview earlier this week, and I compared them to the Golden State Warriors when they won their last championship. The last year's team. When the Warriors beat the Celtics, I remember talking to Jared Sutton, who's an NBA scout, comes on 810, and I said, man, the Celtics look great. They're going to beat the Warriors. The Celtics have won the first game. He's like, no, they're not. I said, why do you think that? Like, they're the younger team. They're more talented. He's like, they make too many mistakes. They're not ready for this. And then sure enough, the Warriors win the championship. But that's how I felt the Chiefs championship game went last year, the AFC championship game, when they beat the Ravens. The Ravens weren't ready for that moment. But I watch the Celtics now, and they're the dominant team. And the lesson from all this is that it's an evolutionary process, that just because you're the best team for whatever amount of years running, that changes. That can always change from year to year. And so do I think that they can still win? Yeah, certainly. They're going to be tough out. But do I think they're better than anybody else demonstrably in the AFC? No, I don't think. I think there's going to be 4 teams in the AFC that legitimately feel like they could beat this team now because of the way things are going.
Yeah. This is you would agree, Sam, a championship caliber team, right? And it is one that can get to where it wants to go still, or no, you think it can't get over whatever problems it's got.
Oh no, I mean, it's definitely a championship team. I mean, look, we were having this conversation about the Chiefs a month later last season on Christmas Day. We were wondering, can this team, put it together in time, because it was getting so late in the season. Even their Super Bowl year where that COVID year where they played the Bucs and went basically 14-1, the starters didn't play in the regular season finale. They set an NFL record for the amount of games they won by one possession. Like, this has happened to this team even at its peak. And Patrick Mahomes, Soren, I said this on your show today, but like, he's never covered a double-digit spread on the road. Like, this game happens when the Chiefs are at their absolute best even. And so that's why I think that needs to be part of the context too, is that we will be critical of some of the aspects of the way that they played against the Panthers. That doesn't mean that this season's lost. Like, they are a 10-1 team. They're probably going to be playing their games at home at Arrowhead Stadium. And to Jeff's point, the team that every other team in the AFC is talking about right now that they're trying to measure themselves up against is the Chiefs. The Bills might be number 1 in the betting markets, which they are. The Ravens might be number 2 in the betting markets, which they are. But both of those teams and every other team in the AFC is saying, can we beat the Chiefs in January?
Yeah, and they are still the measuring stick. I think that's a great way to put it. The measuring stick when it comes to insurance is David Starnes, Allstate Insurance. David Starnes Allstate Insurance, serving the Kansas City area and all throughout the Midwest. With David Starnes Allstate, it's not just about fender benders. Beyond traditional safeguards, enjoy perks like roadside assistance for unexpected breakdowns, transportation expense coverage when your car is in the shop, auto replacement protection to keep you on the road in style, and much more. You can give Dave and his crew a call at 816-781-7331. Visit them online or stop into any of their locations, including North Kansas City, Liberty, and Branson, Missouri. David Starnes, Allstate Insurance. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, proudly serving the greater Kansas City area. Nationally recognized, full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor. Parking lot problems? They've been making them disappear in KC since 1994. Don't risk accidents and liability in your parking lot. Get your lot restriped today. A brightly striped lot will cut down on accidents and keep your lot as safe as possible. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot.
Besame Wellness for all your cannabis needs. With fast, easy, and discreet delivery, you can enjoy the same deals you enjoy in-store but delivered to your home or office. Even same day. Restrictions may apply. Any questions? Let Besame's top-rated customer service team assist you. And this Chief season, don't miss a minute of the game with no delivery fees on game days. And when the home team wins, so do you. Use promo code 3PEAT and receive some extra free goodies with your next Besame order. Don't forget, you can still use promo code podcast25 to save 25% on your entire order for online delivery or at any of their 5 area Besame locations.
Jeff, let's talk about the offense. It played better. Is it as simple as Patrick Mahomes played better? Where would you put the maybe the credit or why this offense did have a better day?
Well, it helps they were playing a really bad defensive team. So, I think that was a start, but they were certainly started fast. They had purpose. A lot of people got involved. Good to see Noah Gray catch a couple more touchdown passes. Mahomes had his cleanest game. I thought he probably his best game of the season as far as just efficiency. They scored, I think 6 or 7 possessions. I think it was
six of the 8.
6 of the 8. Yeah. So I mean, I think that's what you want to see them do offensively. They got to 30 points, and so all these things. The pass protection is a big deal, obviously, but it was good to see different elements pop up and contribute. I've said this the last few weeks. Their lack of speed and explosiveness is jarring watching them play. And I'm not certain they'll be able to establish that until the line gets better or Xavier Worthy gets better at both, actually. But I did like what I saw offensively, and I think that's a good start.
Sam, you chimed in about 6 of the 8 possessions scoring, but there were 2 of them that really mattered that they didn't, right? The offense, I know the defense is kicking itself because they gave up the kind of point total they did to the Carolina Panthers, but the offense could have made that moot, right? If they could have scored at the end when they really needed some extra points to finish this game, they weren't able to do it.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't perfect, but I agree with Jeff. Like, this was Patrick Mahomes' best performance of the season. And really, there's a couple plays that I highlighted that leads me to say that. The first one is the second touchdown to Noah Gray. I think the first one's probably a busted coverage by Carolina. He shouldn't be that open. The second one, though, Patrick Mahomes calls out the Panthers defense before the play and says, this is going to be a cover 0 blitz here. And that alerts Noah Gray to run a different route, the little post route that he runs, the skinny post. And Patrick Mahomes just gives him a chance to make a play. The second one's a scramble play where he actually calls out the wrong play, the wrong coverage before the snap, where he thinks it's going to be man-to-man. Instead, it's a matchup zone, and he just goes and makes a play. And I think we've seen him frequently during, particularly this last 21 months, these last couple seasons, where we see the best out of Patrick Mahomes in the do-or-die situations. The only time he got the ball in Buffalo with the chance to actually continue to make it a game in that second half, the best drive I thought we had seen from the Chiefs yet that season, where he ends it with the Noah Gray touchdown in the corner of the end zone. The 2-minute drill, as you mentioned, Soren, the offense had been great in the second half. A lot of that was protection issues. Then we see the best side of Patrick Mahomes, and you start to wonder if there's a disinterest factor in the rest of the game because of they know they're playing for January. And when it really matters, when they're about to lose a game, when they're about to be embarrassed by losing a game in Carolina, we see the best come out in Patrick Mahomes again. And the question that I think the Chiefs have to be asking themselves, that I know they were asking themselves a week ago after Buffalo, is how do you get that out of every drive? If you get it every time you need it, why can't you get it more consistently throughout the course of the game?
Yeah, and you were on. You followed up with a couple of questions of Patrick Mahomes today when we were out at the press conference about that. Like, hey, what are you working on? Why is it when you need to do it? And he didn't really seem. He gave an answer, right? The mouth was moving, but I don't know that he bought what he was saying. Right? We know this past offseason he was on a podcast and said, "I mastered the art of talking to the media and telling them nothing." Well, that was one of those moments that he had mastered because he didn't really have a great answer. By the way, G-Man says, a couple of years, they played 50-plus games over the last few years, and they're taking everybody's best shot. That maybe that's part of it.
It's true, but my point is, of those 50 games, they know that 8 of them are a lot more important than the rest. They know that this is not the most important game they're going to play this year. And I think that shows up sometimes early in the second half when they've got a lead and you don't have to score here. You've always got another possession. You've got another game. You've got another playoff run. And that's what I said. I think the Chiefs have to impress this urgency upon themselves rather than waiting for the game to dictate it for them.
Yeah, I think here Matt says it's 90% on the line. Have to be better in protection. Isn't all in the tackles. The interior was really soft. And there has been, Trey Smith is graded really poorly at times. Creed Humphrey had a rough game a couple games ago, but he's usually pretty good. Joe Tooney's always very good in the pass protection part of it. The offensive line, how much is the protection? Jeff, and with DJ Humphries looming on the other side, how much optimism should there be that this offensive line is going to get better?
Look, I don't know what DJ Humphries is going to be. And that's, I said earlier, there's some long shots in there. I think he is a long shot. I mean, it's a lot. If you're asking a guy who's just got cleared from an ACL reconstruction surgery to come in and be a huge upgrade over what you have on your offensive line, then you've never had an ACL injury and you've never really understood how football works. It's like it's very hard to plug and play a left tackle who hasn't been playing for the last 11 months on a new team and see positive benefits. So I think Wanya Morris is going to stay in there, and if he's going to have a short leash, but I just have a hard time thinking, okay, here's DJ Humphries, offensive line is fixed. I think that's, I think the best case scenario is he's probably a little bit better than Wanya Morris, but I don't think he's going to be that. I think it's a lot to ask for, and he wasn't that great of a player before he got hurt.
Yeah. Offensive line, is that where this all comes down to, Sam? Like, you can expect growth from DeAndre Hopkins getting more familiar with the offense. You can expect growth from Xavier Worthy. He's a rookie, so we're hoping for that ramp up the way we saw it ramp up with Rashee Rice last year. But really what this comes down to is whether or not the offensive line, some way, shape, or form. I agree with Jeff. I don't think DJ Humphries is like, you just landed Jonathan Ogden and just give him a couple of weeks to knock some rust off, and here he goes. Can he be Donovan Smith from last year? I think that's a question. But does this offense really reaching its ceiling ride, maybe not exclusively, but largely on the offensive line?
Yeah, I mean, it's the most important piece. And, Jeff asked out loud, about it's hard to find, a plug and play at a premier position. You haven't been on this team. You're coming off a surgery. There's one way where it's not so hard to find improvement, and it's when you've had the left tackle play that the Chiefs have had this season. Like, this is a low bar that the Chiefs left tackles have set. So throw out a couple stats on this. The Chiefs this year, every team is judged by the percentage, like where the pressure comes from. Pro Football Focus judges by where the pressure comes from. 32% of the Chiefs' pressures come from left tackle. That is by far the highest number in the league. 20% come from right tackle. That's like 12th in the league. But then 26% come from the quarterback, where they blame him for not getting rid of the football, for leaving the pocket when he doesn't need to leave the pocket. That's second in the league to Bo Nix. Like, he's creating some of this pressure stuff himself. And there's been 11 weeks of this where his left tackle has basically told him, I'm not very good at this job. Like, at some point, this education has to dictate and change the way he plays a little bit, because he's creating some of this himself. And like, he's not the primary problem on this. But my point is, there hasn't been the adjustment that we're typically used to Patrick Mahomes seeing.
Jeff, you were going to chime in because
I would say, and Andy Reid too. I mean, I said this before. You can call different plays. You don't have to put 5 guys into coverage. You can help the guys who are out there who are struggling, and for whatever reason, they don't want to do that, and I don't get that.
I'm 100% on the same page with Jeff. As you were saying that, Sam, I was thinking like, well, run different routes, run different plays, call some different things. Like, last year I beat this drum for a long time, and really going back 2 years, but last year it really got to a crescendo until finally after the Raider game, they started throwing the slants. Like, where are some of those 1-2-3 plant throw, right? The Dolphins had a nice day, and Tua Tagovailoa had the shortest time to throw on average of anybody in the NFL this week, 2.4 seconds. That was the average time it took for him to get rid of the ball. And I know Patrick Mahomes likes to extend plays and he buys time with his feet and everything, but it's okay to rhythm some, and that will ease off that pass rush as well. One, guys start trying to get their hands up, right? When that ball's coming out quick, they can't get there. They kind of stop on the rush and start trying to just bat the ball down if they know it's coming out quick. They've got to get into a better rhythm of mixing and matching. Like, I do think some of this, you gave the percentages. If it's 26% on the quarterback, at least half of that. So 13 you want to put on Pat, fine. 13% goes on Andy Reid. He's got to get into a better rhythm of getting some quick hitters out. And listen, he's always responsible for coaching up Patrick Mahomes. I will agree that I think Mahomes always likes to take that big shot, but they've got, and it can't just be all bubble screens, right? There can be quick hitters that are throwing the ball forward and not just laterally. And I think Andy Reid's got to get some of those into the game plan. Well,
let me add one chunk that's missing from that 50/50 percentage, which is they don't have Rashee Rice, because he's the answer to most of this quick stuff, because there was literally no wide receiver better in the NFL with the ball in his hands after the catch through 3 weeks than Rashee Rice was. And tons of his stuff was an extension of the run game. It was those bubble screens. People might not like them. They work when your wide receiver can break some tackles. Rashee Rice was that guy. that little short stuff over the middle looks a lot better when he gets 5 extra yards after the catch. They don't have that receiver anymore.
I agree they don't have the guy that's going to break the arm tackles, but taking the 7 that you get on just the slant is fine too, right?
Sure.
You don't have to have a guy run for 14 more the way Rashee Rice did. I agree. Nobody will make it look as good as Rashee Rice does, but it's almost just the jab to annoy the opposition, right? It doesn't have to be your knockout. It just has to be, we will throw it, right? We will throw it quick. We'll throw it right over your head. You got your ears pinned back and you're coming on the rush. We'll throw a quick one right over your head before you can get your hands up. And we will put a slant together. DeAndre Hopkins can run that. Justin Watson can run that. They won't run it as well. They won't break as many tackles. I agree with you. But they can at least catch the initial 7 yards if they get inside. And both of those guys should be able to beat a jam. And a lot of times there isn't even a jam. You just got to get a release and make sure you get inside of the defensive back. They need more of that. They've got to get some of that involved.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to run slants when you can run deep. If you can't get guys deep, defensive backs sit on slants. They sit on the short stuff. They sit on the intermediates. And that's part of the problem, right? It's like defenses know we can sit on that stuff that you want to run, Soren, because you don't have time to throw it deep.
But are you seeing that? Are you seeing that they're wanting to go there and he's like, wow, that's covered. I got to go someplace else? Because I'm not. I see Travis Kelce on a quick hook underneath. I see, like, when you look at where the receivers are positioned on the field on some of the all field ones, and I'm not grinding through the all 22 5 different ways on every play. That's not, I haven't done that, but there are times I don't see any of the receivers running any of those. They're all clustered outside, or it's a cluster inside with everybody fanning in different directions. Just the guys line up and we're going to slant inside. You can't tell me that week in, week out, every corner can stop that. They're 4 deep on corners that can all stop a basic slant. I don't think it's going to look like it did last year with Rashee Rice, but there is some of that fruit that is still hanging on the trees they're not taking.
They still throw those kind of, it may not be a slant. They still throw those short routes. The problem is the guys like Sam said, they're not breaking tackles. I think 3 or 4 times a game, they're trying to throw a little short 3-4 yard pass to Kelce, and it's not going anywhere. Like, they throw slants to DeAndre Hopkins, it's not going anywhere. In fact, those guys probably aren't winning as much at the line of scrimmage as you think, because you need the separation to throw it. It's very hard to run the kind of offense they're running unless you are running the ball really well and using play action. You can run slants off play action, but they're not doing that as much.
The most forced tackles, which is either you juke somebody and doesn't even get a hand on you, or you actually break through a tackle. The most forced missed tackles this year that any Chiefs wide receiver has is 8. It's Rashee Rice, had them in 3 games. The second most is 3 with Juju Smith-Schuster. So what anyone else has done throughout the entire season, look, I mean, and there's only one guy with 3. McCole Hardman's got 2. Hopkins has 2, but one of those came with the Titans. You have to go down to Xavier Worthy and Kelce. The next 3 combined have still only tied what Rashee Rice did in 3 weeks for the Chiefs. Like, they're not getting production after the catch. So, and this offense, by the way, is designed to just get guys the ball quickly to try and get plays after the catch.
Yeah, and you knew, and I know we got to get the break here, but you knew when Buffalo came up and started playing a lot of man coverage that they felt like you guys can't win at the line of scrimmage. And whatever you want to run short, you're not doing it against us because you're not going deep. And so that's a problem too.
I agree. I think, Jeff, you make a great point about getting deep. I will say I'm not worried about the after catch. I just want the catch part, right? Like, the run after catch is great, but just get the catch and get tackled. Go DeAndre Hopkins style. No yards after catch is fine. Take the 6 or 7. But they're all good points there. We do want to get to the defense here in a second. First, I want to mention Isaiah Pacheco. Jeff, what kind of impact is he going to make if he's able to be back in there, and how much do you think he's going to be actually playing in the game?
This game, I'd be surprised if he's got more than 7-8 carries. I mean, it's your first game back. You don't need him as much. Kareem is there. Of all the guys we're talking about returning, Omenihu, him, or even coming to the new guys, DJ Humphries, he's the one who I expect the most out of. But again, at that position, a leg injury, you miss 6-7 weeks. It's going to take some while to get him up to speed. I'm not expecting him to be super explosive. I think if he's able to just be, I look at Christian McCaffrey, what he's doing. If he's able to be half of that, and Kareem they become a 1-2 punch. I think that's the best case scenario. But, again, I think their issues are not about that part of the offense. So I think he'll be okay, but it won't matter as much as the other stuff.
I think if he's back, he should be healthy. So that would say, okay, unleash him. But he hadn't played football for a while. When a guy's not in football shape, I do worry about the injury as well. I think that may curtail how many touches he gets as much as it is like, oh, he's still kind of hurt. I don't think he's going to be hurt, but he's not going to be in football shape. And so I think I think just probably in the ballpark on how much he's going to get. Sam, how much do you think he sees?
Yeah, I mean, I think he probably gets less than half. But I do think Isaiah Pacheco can make a difference. And look, I'm not the guy who thinks that Pacheco is a top 10 running back in the league, but they put McCole Hardman in the backfield last game. Like this downslope that I've been talking about for a while with Kareem Hunt, like they're seeing it. And by the way, McCole Hardman was one Jawan Taylor block away from turning one of those carries between the tackles into a 25-yard touchdown. They're seeing that there's not explosion coming out of the backfield here. And that's what Isaiah Pacheco does offer. There's nobody blocking from guard to guard better than the Chiefs are on these running plays. And they're not getting the explosive runs. 32 players this year in the NFL have at least 100 carries. There's only one of them that has fewer than 10-yard rushes this year, and it's Kareem Hunt. He only has 8. Like, they are missing the explosion. And I do think that they'll have to take some more of the negative carries that Kareem Hunt has eliminated from this offense, but they should have some more explosive plays as well.
Yeah, no, I agree. And the running backs, when they get Pacheco back, he's got to be a part of the equation, right? Like, I mean, he or at least a part of the explosive part of the equation. He has to be, because they don't really have, to your point about speed, Jeff, what you made earlier, they don't really have a lot of guys that can do it. And at some point, you'd like to see them get a touchdown that didn't require them to just grind all the way down the field. And those have been few and far between, and Isaiah Pacheco is perhaps one of the guys that can do that. We mentioned we'll talk defense here in a minute, but don't forget we're proudly brought to you by our friends at Whataburger. They're open 24 hours. Whataburger is proud to sponsor the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast. Now at all your KC Whataburger locations, and for a limited time only, get your Whata Wings tossed in any of your favorite flavors, including the new Nashville Hot. Or get your hands on fire you can handle with the all-new, perfectly spicy Bacon Blaze Jalapeno Double. Get a kick this football season with these great new limited-time Whataburger favorites. Stop by any of the Kansas City Whataburger locations today. Whataburger's open 24 hours a day.
Unlock a premium dispensary experience at Key Cannabis. Visit any one of our 12 Key Cannabis locations across Missouri for a huge selection of cannabis products and expert recommendations from Missouri's friendliest bud tenders. Quick service, convenient online ordering, drive-through pickup, and a fantastic loyalty program. Plus, Key Cannabis offers discounts for veterans, med patients, cannabis industry professionals, seniors, first responders, and students. Visit us in KC North, South KC, and Belton. Open 7 days a week, or shop online at keykannabis.com. Key Cannabis, open for premium cannabis experiences.
Northland Injury Law, Kansas City's Google 5-star rated personal injury lawyers, serving KC for more than 40 years, voted Kansas City's #1 accident lawyers, helping people with serious injuries from car accidents, work accidents, falls, and other personal injuries. Northland Injury Law doesn't get paid unless they get money for their client. Don't wait, get compensated now. If you have a case, text HURT to 22222. That's HURT to 22222, or call 816-400-HURT. That's 816-400-4878. The choice of a lawyer is an important one and should not be based solely upon advertisements. All right, let's talk about the defense, Jeff. Can the problems that they have be fixed? They, again, didn't get a whole lot of pressure on Carolina. Couldn't get stops when they needed it to seal the game. What do you think? Are you optimistic on the defensive side of the ball?
This elite defense we're talking about.
I will point out a defense that around week 3 or 4 you came around. Maybe it was 5 or 6 came around. Yeah. You yourself calling elite.
Yeah. Reluctantly.
They did have Jalen Watson at that time, right?
Yes.
Yeah. They still have the pass rush issues. Look, I don't think Omenihu is, just as the case with DJ Humphries. You're coming off an ACL. That's a position you're asking a lot of explosiveness. You're asking for a lot of explosiveness and agility. And I just don't see how a guy in that situation is better than George Karlaftis or Mike Dana healthy. I think it's about the same. So I'm not expecting him to come in and be anything more than what those guys have been. And really the bigger concern is just the secondary. I mean, it's every time a pass goes downfield, I am certain number 13 in the Chiefs uniform is going to be the guy covering that receiver. And now number 27, Shamari Connor's in that same category. And it's a trick bag for Steve Spagnuolo because it's very hard to play defense when you can't rush the passer and you've got a couple areas in your secondary and even in your linebacker core with Nick Bolton, where people know they can pick on that. And so that really is troubling. I don't think they've got answers for that right now. I don't think their answers are coming. I think Sam is right. I think it's very close to what 2018 was. Maybe not as bad. I think that unit was pretty rough. But their inability to get stops the last 4 games has been striking. And, fool me once, shame on me. It's like fool me 4 times. You got a problem.
I want to hit this real quick. Tommy said it seemed Leo Chenal was not a part of a lot of the sub packages. How many plays did he play? He played 20 plays, which is only 32% of the snaps, which is, I think there is an element of, and that may have been based upon what personnel Carolina was using, which may have been something they saw on tape. We do this, they take him off the field, and we don't want to see him. And so I think it is interesting. Maybe we're seeing teams starting to find not just the pass rush hasn't been there, but they're finding out, okay, it is a little different without Willie Gay, right? Like maybe there is a different way to pick on this team. Sam, defensively, can they fix these problems?
Like I said at the top, I mean, we've been talking about this for too long to think that it's suddenly going to flip. And take your signals from Steve Spagnuolo of what's the bigger concern to him. He blitzed on 40% of the snaps. Like he's telling you he trusts his coverage more than his pass rush. And there was such an absence of pressure early on that allowed an NFL quarterback, even an NFL quarterback who has struggled throughout his entire career, to get into a rhythm. And there's never been a reason that Bryce Young has had to believe that he's good since he's been in the NFL. They gave him so much time to throw that Bryce Young started believing he was good. And guess what? There's a reason he was taken number 1 overall. Like he's not without talent. And once he had the confidence that I'm pretty good at this, he became pretty good at this. He made some throws when you go back and watch the tape that I hadn't seen Bryce Young make this year. And I think that's going to get lost in the conversation because of how much he's struggled over, the last year and a half. People are going to say, oh, well, it's Bryce Young. There were some throws that I was like, that's not the Bryce Young I've seen. But I think that's at the fault of the Chiefs allowing him to get in such a rhythm because they allowed him all day to throw. And then eventually Steve Spagnuolo said, I got to bring some more pressure here because the front 4 is not getting any pressure. And then he started beating the blitz too. To Jeff's point, there was not coverage on the outside to where every time the Chiefs were bringing cover 0 blitzes, he smoked it. He was 11 of 14 against the blitz.
For like 130-something, a touchdown and no interceptions.
Yeah, and I think that's all because, though, that the Chiefs allowed him to get in that rhythm. And one last point I'll make on this is this was not a game because of turnovers, because of field position that the Panthers have. Like, they played them toe-to-toe. They went back and forth down the field with the Chiefs. And part of that, a major reason for that, is the Chiefs just could not generate pressure on Bryce Young.
Yeah, no, I agree. And are the blitzes getting stale, Jeff? Is that what it is?
I don't think they're getting stale. They're just people are seeing them more. It's like anything. It's like pitching in baseball. The more you see a pitcher, maybe the first time around you can't hit his curveball or slider, but once you start to get dialed in, you're going to start hitting it. And this is what is the byproduct of having to play so many tight games, having to have these issues with the pass rush and with the secondary. You need guys who can just go out and win. And when you don't have that in abundance, you have to scheme it up. And once you're scheming it up, then people are seeing what's coming. Like, you don't get the kind of numbers Bryce Young had in that context just by being a good player, getting to rhythm. You get it because you're seeing it on film study. You know what's coming. Like they had a play there. It was a 4th down play that they hit Adam Thielen. He leaked out of the backfield. He faked a block and then cut across the field, leaked out, and it was just like they were ready for that. And you saw it with Josh Allen. Like you saw it with Baker Mayfield. You saw it with Bo Nix. Like, all these teams have smart coaches who are seeing this stuff And there's only so many bullets you have if you're Steve Spagnuolo.
I mean,
real quick, Sam, I want to correct. I said 136, 123 yards, but it was 9.6 yards per attempt against the blitz.
Yeah, we're going to attack it. Not just we're going to try to survive. We're going to go after. We want them to blitz.
The Chiefs last year were good enough in coverage to where they didn't have to blitz.
Yeah.
And so when they did blitz, there was at least the potential for the element of surprise. Now, when you have to blitz and teams know you're not generating pressure, it's the only way you're going to generate pressure. They're expecting it. And so now it's not, are you going to blitz? It's which one of these guys is going to blitz. And when you erase half of the equation of your head of whether or not you're going to see extra pressure, you're much more effective against it when you do see it.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair point. What's the ceiling now for this defense, Jeff? How good can they be? I'm with you. I think they were elite early on. I think they had reached that level. I think it was with Jalen Watson. I think it took a little time for OCs to figure out this is how we beat them. They are not elite now. I want to be clear. I don't think they're trash. I don't think they're horrible.
No.
I think there's still a lot of things they do well. But is elite still part of their ceiling? Can they get back to it, or is that part gone?
No. If I'm grading them, I would say right now they're a C level defense. They might be able to get to B- if Chris Jones is really killing it, but I think he's tired. I think you play as many reps as he's playing with as many double teams as he's seeing, and you're not seeing the results around you happen. That could be demoralizing too in a different kind of way. That can be discouraging in a different kind of way. And so I think, look, I've said this many times before, and I still believe it. We can talk all we want to about all these guys, DJ Humphries, Omenihu, Jalen Watson, whoever it is. This team has won championships for one reason. Their greatest players have played great when it mattered most. And if they're going to win another championship, it's going to be Chris Jones playing great. It's going to be Travis Kelce playing great. It's going to be Patrick Mahomes playing great. If that doesn't happen, they're not winning a championship.
Okay. I go more than a C. I think they're better than a C now, and I think the ceiling is higher than a B-. I think it's maybe B+. It's not A anymore because I just don't think they can cover well enough. But I do.
You think they're not a C? What grade you give them right now?
Well, I mean, I think against Carolina they were C-, maybe D+. C-, I guess, because they did some things well in the first half. If that's what they are game in, game out, I think your grade is justified, and maybe even a little bit optimistic, because it wasn't a great game against Carolina. But I don't think that game against Carolina is everything that they are. I think they're capable of being better and have been better. And I think the optimism, all of it lies with Charles Omenihu. There's no place else to turn.
Yeah.
Right? This isn't, as Sam's pointed out, there's not 2 or 3 young rookies that are making some rookie mistakes that can go away. Like you can look at Xavier Worthy and think that, okay, it could click. He could get it. You're not waiting on that. The only thing that's going to make him better is Charles Omenihu. But I do think he is more than what he can bring them, can bring more than just one player's ability. I think if he is good, he pulls some of the double teams off Chris Jones, allows Chris Jones to be better. If he is good, that creates, when they're worried about him on the inside, that makes the twists and stunts better that you have to do because guys follow with him. And so now maybe that does create an opening for, somebody to loop inside and come free because they go with Charles Omenihu because he's a handful. I think the scary part is it all rides with him, right?
Yeah.
Like on getting better. Not the whole defense rides with him, but improvement all rides with whatever Charles Omenihu is going to bring to this defense and how that changes things for the guys around him.
But that was the point that I continued to make throughout the offseason was last year's defense was good, not only because of its starters, but because of the depth they built in the offseason with the cheap signings like Drew Tranquill and Mike Edwards, who became a productive player, and Charles Omenihu, who they waited 6 weeks on. But he was a depth piece. And now we're talking about Charles Omenihu as a savior, not as some sort of bonus depth piece. Yeah. They don't have depth on this defense. No. So guess what? When Jalen Watson gets hurt, if he gets hurt a year ago, you still have L'Jarius Sneed and Trent McDuffie. When he gets hurt now, you're left with a bunch of questions about what's next. And it's because they did not build depth the same way they did a year ago.
But there's a limit. Like, what would you have taken away? Because you brought that up a number of times. They did not, and they did not invest in the defense. And in some ways, they said, it is elite. It's as good as anybody's out there. We've got to lean on it because we've got to make the offense better, right? So you'd have to give something back. The easy one is Hollywood Brown. He's been hurt the whole year. That's the easy one. And
Xavier Worthy.
I wouldn't have given Hollywood Brown back. I mean, he was terrific in training camp. That was a good signing.
I give Xavier Worthy back.
I think I won't move off Hollywood Brown that quick because of the injury history. Jeff Chadiha called it. He's been hurt. He's always hurt. He's going to get hurt. He got hurt. Right? Were you unlucky that he got hurt this early? Yes. And maybe you'll get him back, and maybe it'll be, look at this great story. He played in nothing but the playoffs, but in 3 playoff games, Hollywood Brown had 379 yards and 4 touchdowns. Okay, maybe that miracle story is going to be written. But to Jeff's point, he was so resolute. And I think people like myself like the optimism of being a Chiefs fan. Maybe I get caught up in it. But Jeff was just like, it really did. It stopped me in my tracks a little bit. I'm like, maybe I am getting way too excited about this. I think you can talk about not going down the road, because I think it's okay for the Chiefs to say, when we're going to improve, we don't have to get the guy who's got the highest ceiling. We have to get the most dependable guy. And they didn't do that. I don't know what receiver. I'd have to go back and look. Was there another guy they could have gotten? Excuse me.
No,
more dependable?
Receivers have gone for just outrageous money. Like, this is the era the Chiefs are in. They have to take chances like this with wide receivers. When you pay Chris Jones $30 million, when you pay Patrick Mahomes, go ahead.
That's the one. That's the one right there.
Let me call a timeout. You never have to. That is the most dangerous phrase that any general manager has ever uttered. I had to. We have to. We have to. You never have to.
So you're going to sign Christian Kirk for $22 million?
No, there are other bit receivers that are out there.
Who?
I mean, there are guys. Well, you could have just come back with MVS on a nothing contract. I mean, there are always other guys.
MVS got cut by the Bills this year.
Listen. I don't.
And they offered MVS. He said no.
He's done more than Hollywood Brown. So if you want to point on what the production is this year, Hollywood Brown has done Dick, nothing. Okay, nothing this year. So if it's a tit for tat about what guy has done what this year, Hollywood Brown has done nothing. So I don't want to make this a referendum on Hollywood Brown. I understand they swung for the fences and struck out. And that's my point. I don't know that you got to swing for the fences when you have Patrick Mahomes and you have all the pieces you have. Listen, I don't have right now. I could go through the list of free agent wide receivers, and I guarantee you I can find 10 guys that were available that have at least a catch, which is more than he has.
But that's results over process. We're arguing the
it's
process.
It's not when the point going into it beforehand. Jeff Chadiha, before he was ever hurt, said he's going to get hurt, and he got hurt.
He's never played 0 games in a season.
Yes, but he is this year, and that's the point. They gambled on a guy who gets hurt all the time, and he got hurt. And because a guy usually gets hurt later in the year doesn't mean he can't get hurt earlier in the year.
I don't think it's an ideal position anyway. My point is the alternative options are not great for a team that pays Chris Jones $30 million in the offseason.
And that's the point. When you say I have to go do something, then you didn't look at, was there a quality corner that they did nothing to replace L'Jarius Sneed. They just said, we're going to play Jalen Watson. And I think it was a good gamble. And I think it's just somewhat, the NFL is a bitch, man. Like, guys get hurt. But if they had signed, and you even brought up Tre'Davious White last podcast, Sam, had they spent the resources they spent on Hollywood Brown on another corner, would they be a better football team here today? Again, maybe not. Maybe that guy would have been hurt. But I think you at least have to, as Brett Veach and his group gets ready, because December's when they start grinding through the free agency, they have to look at this and say, did we make a mistake? We wanted it to work with Hollywood Brown, but really we shouldn't have. I just think that's something they really need to look at.
Yeah, well, I agree. That's absolutely part of the discussion. And sorry to cut you off, Jeff, but I totally agree with that aspect. Like, the Chiefs need to have that conversation. My point here is that I still think sometimes that conversation is going to lead to that same risk, because the only way you're getting that sort of elite talent at wide receiver, and that's what I meant by you have to, in order to get an elite talent at wide receiver, there has to be risk associated with it when you pay the guys at the top of their food chain the way they do.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jeff.
No, I was just going to say that, the defense, look, sometimes you swing and you miss, right? I mean, Felix and Aduke Uzama has not worked out like they'd hope. Mike Dana, they gave a lot of money to, hoping he'd replicate what he did last year. That hasn't happened. Karlaftis is not the same player, or hasn't created the same kind of production. And Jalen Watson, these guys, he's been around for what? They were relying on guys who they'd seen good things from or had made big bets on. And that's also
Jeff, is Mike Dana the answer to this? I mean, Mike Dana's making $8 million last year. Mike Edwards,
better be.
Last year, those two signings we talk a lot about with Drew Tranquill and Mike Edwards, where guys were just overlooked in a market that should not have overlooked them. They made $6 million combined between those two players.
No, I agree with you. And I thought Dana was not going to repeat what he did because of I thought he was a nice thing last year, but you can't bet on that. And they bet on it, and they're paying a price for that.
Yeah, they are. You mentioned Chamari Connor. Like, are we giving up on Chamari Connor? Has the riddle of Chamari Connor been solved, and there's just nothing, that they can do, or did he just have a bad day? Sam, I know that's been one of the guys you've pointed to a lot, and he has played very well at times for this team.
Yeah, I still think Chamari Connor's had a good season. I did not think he was good in Carolina. But, he's one of the few guys that's capable of creating a turnover this year. He has 23 stops this year, which is 8th among all defensive backs. I think I can't remember whether it was Next Gen. There was a stat I saw that credited him with not giving up a touchdown this year. He does struggle some in the slot. I mean, one of the things with Chamari Connor right now is he has kind of a tweener body. He's not quite a safety. He's not quite a slot cornerback, and they're trying to fit him into a slot cornerback because there's a very obvious glaring need there.
Yeah, well, he covers like a safety, which is part of the problem, and people are picking up on that because when you start to put more weapons on the field, and he wasn't seeing they weren't seeing the diversity of weapons that Buffalo can offer. I still don't get what happened with Carolina, but it's apparent that teams are starting to pick up on the fact that this guy in coverage can be had. And if they're going to blitz, if they're going to put in one-on-one, that's another guy we're going to go after. That's another problem.
I think that's a pretty good point. Remember, we're always brought to you by our friends at David Starnes, Allstate Insurance, and Gann Asphalt and Concrete. David Starnes, Allstate Insurance. Elevate your coverage, elevate your confidence, and drive worry-free. Covering all the important things in your world: home, business, life, and even the fun stuff, as well as your motorcycle, boat, ATV, and you name it. Get with Dave, and he'll get you covered. You can give Dave and his crew a call at 816-781-7331. Visit them online or stop into any of their locations: North Kansas City, Liberty, and Branson, Missouri. Don't put those insurance needs off any longer. Get with Dave today. He'll give you peace of mind for the things in your life most important to you. David Starnes, Allstate Insurance. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, proudly serving the greater Kansas City area. Nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor. Locally owned and making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Let Gann educate you about the most cost-effective way to solve your parking lot problems. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews. Every project comes with a written warning. Gann Asphalt keeps your parking lot safer and helps you and your business avoid unnecessary delays and costly expenses. Find Gann online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot. Jeff, how concerned are we that this go-around with the Raiders is going to look like the last one, or at least the Christmas Day one? We're in a holiday season here with a Black Friday game. They're 12.5-point favorites, the Chiefs being. How much should there be a fear that the Raiders will repeat itself?
It's hard to see it. That was such a lightning in the bottle type thing last year where the Chiefs, admittedly were looking past them, and the Raiders were finding some energy from Antonio Pierce, and Josh Jacobs was still there. There are a lot of those defensive linemen who gave Mahomes hell in that game. They're not playing right now. They're on IR. And so I don't see where there's going to be a repeat of that. I do think it'll be a close game just because that's what the Chiefs do now. I don't think they're going to cover that, whatever it is, 12, 13-point spread. But this should be a game they win easily. It should be a game that they play well in. I think they need it, to be honest with you. I do feel like what you said about what happened in Carolina in Andy Reid's speech, I think players know more than anybody. Players know when things aren't right. And that's, as much as a coach as you try to lecture that out of them, or preach it out of them, or pep talk it out of them, they're seeing the same things we're seeing. And it's tough because if you're not this great dominant bully, and they don't have to be that to win. They weren't that last year. But I think in their minds, we're the cream of the crop. And if you're not that, then what are you? And I think they're going through some of that right now.
Yeah. How about you, Sam? What do you think? Raiders repeat or no? Is that the very reason why it won't happen?
I feel like I need to address the conversation in the comments about my eating habits that came up on on the radio show.
Today, yeah.
Yeah, some of these jokes are actually not that far off from reality. I'll just say that. But
what the hot pockets are ready? Is that
the hot pockets are far off. There's a couple in there that
butter noodles.
That one's probably not too far off. There's a couple that are not too far off. But look, I mean, let's not overthink the biggest challenge here with the Raiders. It's Max Crosby against whoever lines up at left tackle for the Chiefs. I mean, Max Crosby has an unbelievable ability. When the Raiders suck, he's still really good. And he's still, I think it's 11th in the NFL in pressures this year. Like, he still is a problem. He's going to be up for this game to play the Chiefs. He loves playing against the Chiefs. And they shut him down last time, and it was still a game deep into the third quarter. I don't see them twice shutting down Max Crosby. Whatever happened to him last time, Juwan Taylor was terrific on him last time. I think he's gonna tell his coaches, even though he often lines up on the left, I think he's gonna say, whoever's playing left tackle, that's the guy I want to match up against. And I don't want to be the coach that tells Max Crosby, you can't do that.
Yeah. No, I think, look, I think that Max Crosby is going to be an issue. He always is. But I do think that the 12.5 point line gives me credit. Like I said, we'll get to our predictions here in a minute, but it gives me confidence that they think that this game, the Raiders are a very different team right now than what they were last time. When they came in last time, the Raiders were a team that were playing for their coach, trying to get Antonio Pierce the job, starting to show some signs of playing with confidence. They are dead man walking coming into this game. There's nothing to play for. There's no coach to save the job on. They either think he's got the job or they've now lost confidence in him because they're not winning with him. They're on the backup quarterback to maybe going back to the backup quarterback that started as the starting quarterback. He was actually really a backup quarterback. Like that whole thing is such a white hot mess. And they're coming to Kansas City the day after Thanksgiving. I don't think there's do you see any emotion or fire coming with the Raiders in this game? I don't. I think they come in looking to fall and with one foot still on the plane, looking to get out of town. Like I don't see where the Raiders suddenly bring it in this one. Am I the only one?
Well, I think that this season they've had a history of starting fast and then just flailing for the rest of the game. So I could see them putting up a fight in the first quarter and trying to get hyped up. But yeah, I don't think that they're not winning the game. I don't see. I mean, they're a bad football team, and they don't have the luxury of saying our quarterback has some talent. I mean, Aiden O'Connell threw 8 passes in the last time they beat them, so I don't think they're going to open up the passing game and just go to town on them.
No, I cannot see that coming. And I can't see the Raiders. I actually think the Chiefs are going to blow them out. Now let's just transition into them. It's my last shot. This is the Browns.
This is like a Steve Spagnuolo blitz. We see it coming.
Yeah, this is the game when they get ready.
I knew you would see it coming. First of all, okay, let me say that. I did tell you it was coming earlier on, so I hope that was at least part of why you saw it coming. I really do think the Raiders are dead. I don't know what there is. I know they showed a little life against the Broncos, and that is the danger. They are an NFL team, and if the Chiefs leave them hanging around early, then there's going to be a problem because the longer you leave a team in there, the more confidence they get, and everybody's got a few players. But I just think I think this is one. I think the mindset of that team at the end of the game that Andy Reid felt like he had to pick up is one that they need to make a statement. I think this is a game that'd be very easy to look past to the Chargers. And so you could talk about the look-ahead situation because that's by far the bigger game. But I think that team left the field against the Carolina Panthers going, why aren't we better? And I think they're trying to prove to themselves that they are better. So I think you're going to get a great effort from the Chiefs. Plus, the Raiders are a tick. They're annoying, right? They're a pain in the ass. I think the Raiders, the Max Crosby crap is enough to fire everybody up, right? And if it's a fired-up Chiefs team, they're significantly better than the Raiders. I think they unload on the Raiders. In fact, I'm going to take them over 30 again.
So if they don't do that, how are you going to feel about it?
I'm going to really be I'm going to be pretty down on their chances to make a run, right? But and to Sam's point, it was much later than this when we were all really down on them, and rightfully so, after they laid an egg against the Raiders. Come back and beat the Chargers, that'll pick me back up. But no, I think they need it for their confidence. I think they need to kick this team's ass. I think Andy Reid knows it, and I think they will make an effort. And I think Vegas knows it. I think that's why they're laying 12.5.
What was your final stream?
Let's go 34. Let's push that number up there. Let's go 34 to 17. Let's just double it up. 34-17.
There's one of the things that you said, Soren, that we actually probably should have even added to our list of topics today is you mentioned the fact that the Chiefs have let teams hang around this year. They've been outscored in the first quarter this year. A 10-1 team has been outscored overall in the first quarter this year. And until this last week, that was all at the fault of the offense. They had averaged 2.7 points per first quarter until they scored 10 this last week. But the defense allows the quarterback to gain some confidence. I absolutely think that if the Chiefs are going to blow out a team, they got to put them away in the first quarter, at least be up at least 7 after the first quarter. It has been a long time since the Chiefs had a full touchdown lead after the first quarter. And it does allow teams to think, wait a minute, these are the 2-time defending champions. We can actually play with these guys. We made it through the first quarter. We took their quote unquote scripted plays and we were fine afterwards. And so I do think that something has to happen early on in these games. And the offense found that, and then the defense blew it. There's one aspect of this matchup, to get into my score here, that I was interested when I looked through the matchup, is the Raiders' right tackle has struggled as badly as the Chiefs' left tackle has struggled this year. And it's also a rookie, DJ Glaze. He's allowed the second most pressures in the NFL this year among right tackles. And so if this is an issue with your pass rush, there's going to be no excuse this game not to get your pass rush going. I also think the Chiefs win. Obviously, I'm not as – both of these things are obvious. I think the Chiefs win, and I'm not as high on it as Soren is. So I've got a 28-17 final for the Chiefs.
So you got the Raiders covering, for the record.
I do. By the way, I've got no field goals in there because I think we're going to be looking at a third-string kicker here who hasn't kicked in a little while. So I've got him scoring 4 touchdowns in the game.
Okay. Jeff?
I got him 23-16. I just think it's going to be close just because it's been close before, and it's not going to be any change there. It's just too hard to get excited about them blowing people out now.
You don't have to get excited. You just have to predict it, right?
Yeah.
I'm not saying you got to want it.
You get excited about it.
I do. I do get excited about it because I do think there are signs there, and it's also a little bit of what I want to happen, right? I want to believe that they can get there, because I think the thing that's important to remember in winning a championship, like, they're good enough now, as we all stated before, they're good enough now to do it. If they have the right game plan, game by game, they can get there and win a championship. That's what they did last year. But that's not the blueprint. That's not the way you want to do it. You end up in that situation and you just fight like hell and you fight your way to the finish. And if you're good enough, you'll hold the trophy at the end. The plan is to be able to kick a couple people's asses along the way and then find a way to win a couple others. The plan is not to try to have to find a way to win 4 times in a row. And so all I'm looking for is them to start showing the signs of being able to be definitively the better team on the field in a playoff game. And right now they haven't shown that. Right. And so that's where I think it starts by, humbling a peasant. And the Raiders are a peasant in the NFL, right? You don't need to, you got to beat the Black Knight in the end, but at least humble the peasant. Okay. Like along the way, then you can, start shining the armor and thinking you're going to be impressive. It's what I want to happen. It's what I think needs to happen for them to have a big win, right? To be a consistent playoff team. That's what I think needs to happen. That's why I'm there. I don't know. So again, I'm 34-17. Sam, you are
28-17.
And Jeff?
23-16.
Okay. There it is.
Chiefs though, Jeff?
What's that?
Chiefs?
Yeah, Chiefs. Chiefs. I picked the Chiefs.
Yeah. Let's make sure.
That mistaken Carolina pick almost could have been a good pick.
Yeah. Could have been.
You're right.
Could have been.
When he kind of started out,
That's right.
Carolina.
Yeah.
Oh, hold on.
That's right.
Yeah, it was looking pretty good. You were wishing you'd probably stayed with it there for a minute.
Mhm.
We're proudly brought to you here, the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast by our friends at David Starnes Allstate Insurance. You can give David his team a call at 816-781-7331. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, solving parking lot problems in Kansas City for 30 years. GannAsphalt.com. Brought to you by our friends at Besame Wellness. Besame Wellness. Use the promo code podcast25 to save 25% on your entire order. Whataburger. Don't forget, they're open 24 hours. Get your hands on fire. You can handle with the all-new perfectly spicy bacon blaze jalapeno double by our friends at Northland Injury Law, Kansas City's Google 5-star rated personal injury lawyers, and our friends at Key Cannabis. Key Cannabis offers discounts for veterans, med patients, cannabis industry professionals, seniors, first responders, and students. Find them online at keycannabis.com. For Jeff Chadiha from the NFL Network and NFL.com, Sam McDowell from the Kansas City Star, my name is Soren Petro saying thank you very much for joining us here on the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast.